During the 90s and early 2000s, Montel Williams established himself as a household name through his Emmy-nominated talk show, The Montel Williams Show. But before Williams was welcomed into homes through TV screens, he dedicated his life to protecting the home front. His time in service spans across 22 years. The Marine and Naval veteran is now using his firsthand experience in co-authoring his new book, The Sailing of the Intrepid. Williams brought our Charlie D'Agata aboard the historic aircraft carrier.
You've always had that military mentality.
Since I was a kid, you know what I mean?
Montel Williams enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps as a high schooler looking for his next steps. What he found was a military career that would span 22 years before retiring as a highly decorated naval officer.
When you step on deck here, as a former service member, what's that feel like?
Back straightens, you know what I mean? Start walking in attention. It brings back memories. It really does. You know what I mean? It's a big part of my life. You know what I mean? Literally, I think is what set the stage for all the successes in my life after.
And there have been many. Most notably as a talk show host from the 90s and as an author. His most recent book, The Sailing of the Intrepid, co-authored with David Fisher.
So does it feel like coming home when you step on the deck here?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Williams tells an extraordinary survival story of this aircraft carrier.
The Intrepid was part of one of the biggest armadas ever put together for World War II.
Commissioned in 1943 with Captain Thomas Sprague in command, the Intrepid and her crew of 3,000 prepared to join the Pacific Fleet for the invasion of the Marshall Islands.
This fleet unit's mission is destruction of Japanese air and sea bases in the Marshall and Gilbert Islands.
During the ship's first combat voyage, the USS Intrepid was struck by a Japanese torpedo 15 feet below her waterline, flooding several compartments and jamming the rudder.
The torpedo hit with enough force that it lifted this ship up out of the water a little bit. Not the entire ship, but the stern of the ship came up out of the water, slammed back down. And when it slammed back down, half the people who were standing or laying in racks ended up on the deck. There were more injuries, broken bones, scrapes, cuts, and those kinds of things, and then water coming in.
One of the most advanced carriers of its time was stuck at sea with the closest port nearly 3,000 miles away.
After that torpedo strike, they tried slaloming it.
But by using the engines.
Right.
Captain was putting one engine forward, one engine in reverse, another engine forward, you know, just banging back and forth with the engines, and that's exactly what was happening. The ship was just erratically slaloming in kind of a run direction, but every time they had a really heavy wind or a heavy breeze, it would push the ship in the wrong direction.
After 2 days circling in the ocean, a crew member suggested rigging a makeshift sail on the second deck to help steer the ship home.
They had to get canvas from everywhere. They put together a team of people who worked 24 hours around the clock to sew this thing.
But people that are watching this interview right now might not understand the magnitude. It looks like we're in a building.
Absolutely.
And we're not.
This is 3 football fields. Are you kidding me? Almost 3 full football fields. And, you know, width-wise, you know, this is bigger than most houses and most shopping malls. Though at the time, one of the largest ships ever built, one of the most advanced ships ever built. This is a baby compared to the aircraft carriers of today. If you go back to when the ship was originally built, none of these walls were here. This whole area is the hangar deck.
And extended
outside,
out.
Extended out. So that it caught the wind as the wind was coming across to keep the ship listing a little bit more this way than turning.
It's a giant sail
Yes.
by sail standards.
Correct.
But relative to the rest of this ship.
It's like a Band-Aid, you know what I mean? But the Band-Aid was just enough. They did it and were able to capture that.
Do you think they were surprised at how efficient it was?
Oh, I think they were blown away.
Williams writes the closest the captain came to revealing any details of his crew's inventiveness was by reporting, "We are sailing to destination."
When Sprague pulled into Pearl Harbor, his executive officer came up and said, "Don't we want to take that sail down? It looks so bad." He said, "No, we're not taking it down, no.
We're bringing it in this way.
We're bringing it in this way." You know, it just shows you, again, the ingenuity, you know, the fact that these guys were not going to give up. And I think that reverberated in the bigger, we're not going to give up in this conflict.
It lifted morale.
It lifted morale.
The Intrepid went back into combat 7 months later, playing a crucial role in sinking both the Japanese Yamato and Musashi battleships. Shortly after these successes, the carrier came under attack again, ultimately surviving 5 kamikaze strikes.
This is like the impact of a kamikaze. Is that crazy?
Wow.
I ripped a hole in that deck.
After World War II, the Intrepid was modernized and later served through the Cold War and Vietnam War, and as a NASA recovery vessel for 2 missions, Mercury, Atlas 7, and Gemini 3. Today, the retired aircraft carrier has been restored and preserved as the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum, resting in New York City's Hudson River, sharing her story of survival, resilience, and honor with the public.
The ship got back home. Not everybody had survived.
Not everybody came home with them, yeah.
For Williams, it's the crew's personal stories he's come to know that struck him.
I didn't realize how emotional the thoughts of the ultimate sacrifice are. Something that we don't think about when we think about war fighters. We don't think about in the dialogue that we hear today. There are people who are committing right this second to give their life for us.
Did it surprise you when it struck you so deeply?
Yeah, it hits me viscerally. And when you think about young people today who are so confused about what service means, yet they still make a decision to put a uniform in the back, even if they don't know that that could be the end, the ultimate sacrifice down the road. They still do it. And do we respect them enough for what they do for us? I don't think so.
For CBS Saturday Morning, Charlie D'Agata, New York.
Reflects back to the earlier piece that we had about our veterans, and do we appreciate that these men and women are willing to risk their lives to fight for our freedoms and for democracy?
Yeah, the story though, I mean, how often have you passed by? We drive right by it to get to work. But singling out its maiden voyage in that way just gives such appreciation to the overall life of this incredible structure.
Yeah.
I'm so proud. And it memorializes our vets so well.